Hello, my friends, my Bulwark community. It's Tuesday, which means I get to speak with my friend, Will Saletan. Hi, Will.
Hi, Mona. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing okay. You know, there's a lot going on. On the happy note, the weather is absolutely gorgeous. I can't believe that it's August in Washington. It's really beautiful and dry. So hope that continues for a few days.
It feels like fall. It feels like, I shouldn't say that too early. So I was on vacation last week. I was at the beach, and of course, a hurricane came to the beach. Everybody on the East Coast got the hurricane treatment.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this messed up my beach week. But then I kind of thought, well, when I get back to reality, back to the world, things will have changed. But apparently, Mona, not for the better.
Gosh, what was your strategy when you were on vacation? Did you just completely tune out the news, or did you look, sort of lurk on Twitter, on various websites, or what'd you do?
Mona, I am not a normal person. Everyone else, we were at a beach house. Everyone else tuned out the news. I was like, no, I can't be away from it. I got to pay attention. A lot of Bulwark people do this. We okay, we got to look at what's going on. So unfortunately, I followed a lot of it. And, but I still observed the prohibition in my household that no one else has to hear Donald Trump's voice. I play it through headphones to spare everyone else.
That is a very good rule. Friday morning was the Bolton raid, the raid on John Bolton's home. And so, of course, we hear about it. We're on Slack. I'm out walking the dog, haven't showered, put on any makeup, done anything. And it's like, can you come back and do a live stream right now? So,
on the bright side, Mona, they didn't pick you up, because you never know who's next on this list of Trump enemies.
Only a matter of time. Right. No, honestly, what I said on that live stream is, look, whatever you may think about John Bolton, and there are lots of people who don't like him, and they have good reasons for their skepticism about the guy. But it wasn't about him. It's about us. It's about the message is so clear that this is the new normal now. If you are a critic of this president and by whim, he decides to go after you, then he brings the full force of the federal government down on your head. And it is a deeply, deeply scary moment, because that is how Putin operates. That is how authoritarians operate. They trump up charges against their domestic opponents. And speaking of domestic opponents, so the president and Pete Hegseth are, and we can talk about the FBI too, they are transforming the federal government from what it was. So, for example, the Department of Defense is now being retooled. We're firing generals all over the place, and it's being retooled to be a rapid reaction force to send people to cities, to send military force to cities to keep order. Posse Comitatus Act, anyone? For those who don't know, Posse Comitatus Act, still good law, has been on the books since I think 1870, something like that. It was a Reconstruction era law. Now, it was passed for historically bad reasons because Congress decided at that point that they were no longer going to use federal forces to enforce Reconstruction. So that's the bad reason that it was passed. But here's what the law says. The law says that federal troops cannot be used on American soil except in emergencies, very narrow emergencies. And like all the other laws that this administration is violating, we're left to ask, is there going to be any response? Is there going to be any pushback? The headline we woke up to the other morning, Will, was Trump to invade Chicago. Basically, right. The Washington Post.
Mona, I can't speak for you. I'll speak for myself. I have my entire career as an opinion journalist, whatever. I have been a squish I am a moderate. I'm the person who doesn't go to the barricades, right? Okay, but I also strongly believe in telling the truth as it is. And the truth of where we are is we are in the middle of an authoritarian takeover of the United States of America. It is slow moving. It's slow moving. And so we don't see it as like perhaps the threat that it really is, but step by step. And you've just enumerated. I don't mind you filibustering at all because you're starting to put together the pieces of the pattern. And the pattern is we have an authoritarian at the center who was elected. That does not stop authoritarianism. He was elected president. He is expanding he is seizing power. He is seizing power that technically belongs to him. He's seizing power that doesn't technically belong to him. We have a completely compliant Republican Congress that is acting based on party, not based on protecting institutions, much less protecting the Constitution. He is beginning to place his flunkies in the judiciary, people like Emil Bove, who will do whatever the president wants, who are not Federalist Society conservatives. They are just whatever Donald Trump wants. He is bullying the press. He is bullying the law firms. He's bullying the media. Everyone is bowing down to this man. There is nothing standing in his way. The American public has not risen up. We have some Democratic governors who are beginning to speak out. People like Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, who have said, we're not going to let you come in and take over, as you just enumerated. But so the first thing is we have this authoritarian takeover, and we can talk about some of the parts of that. The second thing that I wanted to bring up, though, Mona, is what you suggested there, which is we are not sending troops Trump is not sending troops into foreign locations. Well, I'm not going to have any wars, he says. He's the peace president. But he is, as some Democrats have pointed out instead, and if you just pointed out, sending troops into American cities. So he's deploying the military, not against foreigners, but against Americans. Why is it that many people have rightly argued against American military deployments without strong cause? One of the reasons is when you send troops into situations where confrontations can happen, you have unintended consequences. You get into fights you didn't expect. People get killed. What makes us think this is not going to happen in the United States when we send troops who are not trained to do policing into situations where they're supposed to deter, but they will create confrontations? We have questions about violations of civil liberties, but there is going to be an explosion in one of these cities. There's going to be incidents that are going to create a conflict between the American military and American citizens. And I don't know how that's going to turn out. It could turn out the Putin way. It could turn out with an uprising. But this is deeply destructive to all of our institutions, including to the mission of the military.
So many things to comment on here. I want to get to the politics of this in a little while. Remind me to come back to the issue of, how Democrats need, in my opinion, my humble opinion, need to respond to this whole, I'm being tough on crime thing that Trump is using, because the polling on that is pretty bad from our perspective, from the non-authoritarian perspective. There's a lot of approval for Trump using this power and bypassing the law because people always want to fight crime, but we'll come back to that. The other aspects, so absolutely, you're right that that it's going to lead to bad consequences, and that the military is not equipped to do police work, and it will get ugly, and innocent people will get hurt. But it's also that the reason you don't want to let presidents order around the military against their own citizens is that we have liberties. That's the thing. The police know, the police are trained, right? That, they're not allowed to just arrest anybody they want. They're not allowed to just stop anybody they want. They have to have a thing called probable cause. These things have developed over centuries to protect our liberties. When it's simply at the will of the military, that, the president's will, the will of one man that's dictatorship. That is not a democracy. When the president is ordering around troops, for whatever reason, even if he says it's just to fight crime, it could then also become, to intimidate people from voting. It could be used for other purposes. And as we know, with the Bolton arrest, this intimidation is a part of the whole plot, is part of the whole plan of this presidency. And then also, again, the law thing. So he signs an order yesterday, an executive order saying it shall be illegal to burn an American flag. And by the way, you get a year in jail if you burn a flag. So really, this is and of course, all of his little toadies start putting out press releases, from the White House about this. But that's not how a bill becomes a law. The president announces something. Oh, wait. And there's another little problem. The Supreme Court ruled in 1989 that burning a flag, however distasteful it may be to people's sensibilities, is obviously political expression and protected by the First Amendment. It is protected speech. It is the core of political speech. The fact that there is not a single, in the first Trump administration, the attorney general might have said, "Oh, Mr. President, actually, there's this case from 1989. You can't actually do that, But not now. Now he's toadies all the way down. So Pam Bondi is certainly not going to explain that this is a core First Amendment right, but there is a certain lizard brain thing going on because, of course, just as JVL pointed this out too on our live stream, he knows how to pick on unpopular targets, right? So nobody likes criminals, and nobody likes John Bolton on either side of the aisle. So maybe he's a good victim for him. And nobody likes flag burners, and so, who's going to come to the defense of flag burners? You know how that's going to be treated on Fox and on all the, right-wing sites, And so he's trying to lure the left into defending flag burners and say, see, they're all flag burners. It's so gross.
He is, Mona. It's so true. Trump, there's a phrase that Trump uses. He starts talking about numbers. It's an 80-20 issue. It's a 90-10 issue. Lately, everything's 97-3. And that's Trump's lizard brain, where Trump is really good at identifying what is politically popular, even if it's constitutionally prohibited, right? Or even if it's wrong, morally wrong, right? So we're going to transgender people we can't persecute the gays anymore. That's the polls have turned on that. So we'll go after the trans people. We'll go after the flag burners. We'll go after the illegal aliens. He's very good at that, and he exploits that gap. Let me pause though on the flag burning for a minute, because I just want to draw a distinction in where we are in the authoritarian takeover. So on the flag burning, there is this curious distinction between what Trump says he is doing with this flag burning order and what is actually in the flag burning order, right? So Trump's version of this is he signs this document in front of everybody, a big ceremony in the Oval Office. I'm signing this thing. He says, this is direct quotes from Trump. If you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. No early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. You burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. The text of the actual order, which was clearly drafted by lawyers, is the Attorney General shall prioritize the enforcement to the fullest extent possible of our nation's laws against flag desecration that violate applicable content-neutral laws. Content-neutral, it cannot be to express opposition to the American flag, which, of course, is the whole point of burning the American flag. It talks about harms unrelated to expression. You can use laws applying to open burning restrictions, disorderly conduct, destruction of property laws. So, and then there's a clause in there, to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution, i.e. what you just outlined, Mona, the 1980. So the language of this order is we're not actually going to go beyond what the Supreme Court allowed. But Trump's version of it, which he's peddling to his base, is anyone who burns the flag will go to jail, which is not true. Having said that, one more thing, Mona. Having said that, that is only where we are presently in the authoritarian takeover. Because for the moment, the president says, and his lawyers say, we will abide by the Supreme Court ruling. That can change. The Supreme
Absolutely.
Court does not have the military. And as you just described, Donald Trump does have the military. He is already deploying it for reasons it is not designed for and not allowed to do. So we are strictly at the point where we are hoping that Donald Trump does not cross yet another line, which progressively he has done throughout his presidency.
Speaking also of, these paramilitary forces that he is creating for himself. So ICE, the gargantuan amounts of taxpayer money that he shoveled at ICE to create this, enforcement agency that will be answerable to him and unreviewable. And then what he's doing, so they've fired or encouraged to resign something like 5,000 experienced FBI officers. And they're now saying that in order to hire back the officers they need, they're going to reduce the standards. They're going to lower the recruitment standards. So you no longer need a college degree. Instead of 18 weeks of training at Quantico, it's going to be just 8 weeks of training. And you can bet, knowing what we know about this crew, that they are going to vet these people for one thing above all, not their love of this country, not their interest in law enforcement or protecting their fellow citizens. Nope. It's going to be, how do you feel about Trump? That's right. I mean, that's going to be the top criterion, as everything else is.
I just want to say, Mona, what you just, for people listening to this or watching this, what you just said is not speculative. That is the standard that is currently being used by the Trump administration to purge people. Anyone who expresses loyalty to their institution and its founding principles at the expense of the president's personally or his political objectives, those people are being purged from law enforcement, from federal law enforcement. There is every reason to expect that people coming in will be vetted by the same standards. That's all. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just beyond belief. I find myself thinking, didn't everybody learn in school about the preciousness of our liberties and that you should guard them carefully? And that aren't we lucky that we weren't born in a country where no one respects the law? Oh, the kind of country where Trump and his ugly little minions are trying to deport Abrego Garcia to. Uganda. Pure punishment. I looked up Uganda. How is Uganda doing these days, right? Never been exactly a model country. And there are some countries in Africa that are doing really well and that are preserving civil liberties and stuff. Uganda, not one of them. They've got a president for life. They've got horrible human rights abuses, and terrible poverty, of course. And Abrego Garcia has no connection to that country. He's from El Salvador, and just because he and his lawyer refused to accept this plea deal where he would plead guilty to things he did not do, they are going to punish him by sending him to a country he has no connection with and that nobody should be sent to, even a criminal. And he's not a criminal.
Right. The Abrego Garcia case. So, Mona, I was out last week, and I just came back, so I had missed some of what had happened. So I brushed up on this case and what had happened. And it seems this is a classic illustration of what they are doing. Okay. They have taken this guy who, as we just discussed, he is a member of one of these groups that people don't care about. Go ahead. People, undocumented immigrants, they shouldn't be here anyway. You can do whatever you want to them. So the administration is testing that proposition. So what they've offered this guy, they have two countries. We can't, they've had multiple opportunities to try to convict him of a crime, and they haven't failed. They haven't produced evidence to convict him of a crime. So instead, they say, you have two choices, right? You can plead guilty, as you just said, a coercive plea agreement, because we can't convict you. So we'll make you confess to this crime. We'll make you say you did it. And if you do that, if you do what we want and help convict you of something that have not actually been convicted of, we'll send you to Costa Rica. That's the good country, right? And if you don't, we're going to send you to Uganda. And it's coercion plain as day. And it is coercion in the service of imposing, this harm to this person because the government cannot follow the rule of law and convict him. So it's part of the authoritarian takeover is just dispensing with all of the procedures that are involved in depriving someone of their liberties, convicting them of a crime in a court of law. Can't do that, so we coerce them. When I came to the Bulwark, I asked, what are we about? And at that time, I talked with JVL about it, and he said, we're a pro-democracy group. But that is only part of the story. And if you talk to him more, he will say, as we would all say, it's not just about democracy. It's about liberalism. Liberalism, as you just discussed, Mona, we have liberties. They're enshrined in a constitution. It is liberal from the standpoint of what many liberals believe in. And it is conservative because you're respecting the founding documents of this country that established these liberties. And it is much more politically difficult to defend liberalism than it is to defend democracy. Democracy is by definition popular. And if you take a minority group and tell the public, hey, we're going to relegate these people. We're going to purge the illegal immigrants. We're going to purge transgender people from the military. We're going to, certainly criminals are a different category, but we're going to find an unpopular group. And we know that most of the people are on our side. Liberalism says, even if for minorities, even for someone who burns the American flag, which I think is vile, right? Most of us would say that. Even for someone who does that, our Constitution says we protect their right to freedom of expression. And we protect it because it is unpopular and otherwise. Right.
Exactly. It's a liberal democracy. The system that we have is all about taming the desires of the majority so that they cannot trample over the rights of the minority. The Viktor Orban in Hungary proclaims that they are an illiberal democracy. That's what he says. And that means that, they are a democracy. They run elections. He gets elected, although he cheats a bit in terms of who he privileges in the voting process. But for the most part, those are free elections. The problem is it's illiberal, meaning they don't respect the rights of minorities. And there's no check on what an empowered leader can do to anyone under such a system. And so, liberties disappear. And I just, I don't really, watching all of this unfold, we haven't even mentioned because it's all happening. There's so much to comment on or note. We haven't even mentioned he's trying now to fire this Federal Reserve Board member, Lisa Cook, on totally trumped up. I mean, we don't know. Maybe she lied on a mortgage application. It's so ridiculous. It's such an obvious fishing expedition to try to find something, anything. And it has nothing to do, by the way, with her performance of the job. So, even then, even if it's true that she lied on an application for a mortgage, which nobody has proven, nobody has even alleged, they just, they dug through and found something. It doesn't reflect on her performance in office. So even then, it might not even be for cause firing. But, who really thinks that this is sincere or that anybody doesn't see right through what's happening here, no more than this administration is genuinely concerned about whether John Bolton violated the laws on classified documents. Hello, the guy who, had the documents stocked in the ballrooms of Mar-a-Lago. I mean, it's just beyond belief. All right. We have more to get to about all of this, including what I think is an important reminder about how to react to all this if you are the other party. But this is all that we're going to be offering to our non-paying members. So for people who would like to hear the rest of the conversation, we'd love to have you. Please join us. Just join the Bulwark. You're doing it not just to hear the rest of this conversation, but you're doing it to make a statement about how you feel about liberal democracy and the fight for it here